Hello, everyone. Mark Stanwyck from Avalaunch here, and today I am joined by two very special guests. We have Mev Dink and Urson Taskin, excuse me, from the Heroes Chain team. And Heroes Chained is our next event. It's a very, very ambitious, important effort for a number of reasons, which we're going to explore today. And I'm really, really happy to have both of you guys on and the opportunity to talk and really get into this. So thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. My pleasure.
Mhm.
Thank you for inviting us.
Sure. So just before we get into it, could you guys give just a brief introduction about yourself, your background, your career, and just kind of like the high level of who you guys are?
Mine is shorter. Mine is huge. So let me start. Okay. So I have a BS degree in electrical and electronics engineering from the Boğaziçi University. And when I had my first software development class in the first year, I fell in love with the job. So I would say I've been in the software business for like 25 years, and IT business as a developer, manager, even sales executive, founder, CTO, CEO.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I've been blockchain for like since 2017. So yeah, pretty much it.
Okay, cool. Mev?
Um, well, I have a very fascinating background, to be honest. It's very long, but I will try and briefly summarize in a few sentences if I can.
Well, we'll give
Uh,
you an opportunity to go much deeper later.
sure. Basically, I can actually start by saying that by complete fate, I found myself in the UK way back in 1979. And again, by complete chance, I got into gaming in the early 80s, effectively when the gaming sector had just started.
Mhm.
So I am one of the very few people who could say that they have witnessed the entire uh, development and the history of the gaming industry. So that's something I'm very proud and also humbled about.
Mhm. Mhm.
I stayed in the UK until year 2000, developed some early classic games. Some of the games have been played by millions of people, and hopefully, maybe you also, Mark, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
And then I returned to my native country at the end of 2000 to kickstart the gaming sector here in Turkey,
Mhm.
which is now flourishing, and Turkey has become one of the most important emerging markets in the gaming scene.
Mhm. Yeah, and in Avalanche, it's an interesting kind of intersection. We work with a lot of teams that are building on Avalanche, also in the gaming sector, and in Turkey. So I see that stuff daily, really, and yeah, we have a lot of Turkish friends at Avalanche. Um, so let's just kind of dive a little deeper into that because you're right. You do have a very, very interesting perspective that covers a lot of years, and you've seen a lot of this transition, which ultimately leads to, I think, a very, very interesting perspective on the state of gaming today, particularly blockchain gaming, because you've kind of seen it all unfold. So I think you're a good person to talk to about the context of this stuff and kind of where we're at and why it all matters and maybe where we're going. So just to kind of set that up, I mean, you mentioned your work in the 80s, but I want to go deeper into that and talk about what went on at that period and beyond, and the impact your work had there for the gaming industry in your eyes.
Well, like I said, I somehow accidentally got into the gaming industry without knowing anything about it. Obviously, that's the fascinating thing. I didn't know
Yeah.
what I was getting myself into.
Hmm.
Uh, by the way, I knew, I didn't know, I couldn't speak a word of English. when I
Wow.
went to the UK. So I learned English and programming at the same time. It's just one man can change one's life. A work colleague insisted on me buying the Sinclair ZX Spectrum, the
Hmm.
legendary 8-bit computer machine, alongside Commodore 64.
Hmm.
Those two machines were the early pioneers, really, of the 80s. Um, they both had limitations and strength, but compared to today's hardware, they were very primitive, which forced people like me to dive deeper into the technology, uh, make the most of the machine, the technology and the hardware provided. So that made us better programmers, better designers. So if you look at the early classic games, it's amazing how they were actually developed.
Yeah.
Uh, so the early 80s in that respect are very important, the 8-bit. And then with Commodore Amiga, so we reached another level. And then the consoles, 16-bit, then 32-bit. So it was like amazing, watching the entire industry change and
Hmm.
very much involved in every aspect from game design, programming, and managing. Um, so, uh, right up to this point, the blockchain gaming, uh, it's fascinating to see the game has become the main focus for most new technologies. Like even blockchain now, I can see is trying to use gaming as the main thing to reach mass market appeal
Yeah.
because there are 3.2 billion gamers in the world. That's an amazing number.
Hmm.
So that's basically what I could say about the early days and where we are at today.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I did have the opportunity to read your book. Anyone that's interested to check that out. It's a very compelling autobiography of Mev's work and career. And there's that early moment in gaming. I think is it just for you is important to focus on because when you step back and you look at it, like, and I try and put myself in your shoes at that point. Gaming is obviously this tremendous industry now. Not so much back then. Personal computing was still in its infancy in many ways, but particularly gaming. And so, in your book, you talk about teaching yourself programming and this real individual type initiative that it feels like there couldn't have been much inspiration or reference point for a career in gaming or how important it could and couldn't be. And I'm just kind of wondering what was going through your head at that point and if it felt like, this is going to be very important work and, this is going to be a tremendous industry, or it was just a personal curiosity. Um, I just want to understand like how you thought about it at that time for you yourself as an individual and where it could go.
Well, Mark, that's a brilliant point. Thank you very much. Actually, that really explains the early years because I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into. Um, and I had no interest in gaming as such. I'm a
Hmm.
lousy gamer, as you know. Having read my book, I'm really
Yeah.
bad at it. Um, but obviously, I have an amazing imagination that helps. And also, having learned programming myself from magazines and books,
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to learn. So, uh, obviously, I had an inclination towards programming. I had no background in computing whatsoever. And I had no inspiration from anyone. I had no reference point. Um, so now it's amazing. You can Google anything you want. YouTube is full of free videos. There's so much information that you can get lost in it.
Mm-hmm.
but there was so little then. So I just did my best. The only reference I had was my previous work. I always try to better myself.
Right.
So I've been my own reference, really. That's another fascinating thing about the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm. And did your friends, your family, your professional colleagues, like did they, I mean, I assume, pretty soon after you niched down and you were surrounded by people in the industry, but did this feel to them like a worthy endeavor? Did they understand it? I don't mean to over dramatize it, but still, it's like when something's so early, it can look probably strange to others, to pursue that with such a passion. And I just wonder if people around you at that time understood what you were doing, and maybe the potential of it.
Again, a brilliant question. Um, I was working at a cable factory at the time when I bought my first computer. And I remember almost all of my colleagues taking the mickey out of me, like
Right.
laughing at me,
Right.
saying, "Look, you can't even speak English and you're now trying to become a programmer, you're wasting your time." All of which, in an interesting way, fueled my interest, and ambition, not to
Mm-hmm.
prove myself, but uh, uh, like I said, I just set my mind to it. It became a passion. Once, as I learned more, and as I understood it more, I wanted to get more into it, dive deeper. Um, and without knowing, I decided to learn machine code, which was unheard of because everyone was coding in basic language.
Mm-hmm.
Because I happened to read an article in one of the magazines, the guy saying simply that if one wanted to become a successful programmer, they should learn machine code as it was better.
Hmm.
Because I didn't know the difference between the two, I said, okay, I'll learn machine code. That's what the man says. And and now I know how hard that it was. But
Right.
at the time I didn't know. So um, and and being a foreigner, obviously in the UK, having sort of come from Turkey, I didn't have a lot of friends, to be honest. Uh, so my work colleagues definitely didn't believe in what I was doing. But my wife, English wife, was really supportive. She always believed in my ability to pull it off.
Yeah.
So she was quite supportive. And I had a really lucky break with my first game. I sold it to British Telecom, a huge company, um, and then never looked back. And I very quickly I became one of the household names in the UK, which is absolutely amazing. And I've made some amazing friends, most of whom are very well established, famous developers themselves. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
still very, very friendly with them. We still keep in touch. It's a small industry still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, it's massive in terms of economy and the number of people engaged in it. But the actual core of the people who create the early years and still uh, in the industry, it's a small pocket of people. It's quite interesting. It's
Mm-hmm.
probably same for cinema, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I imagine it was even smaller back then, and I want to I do want to move on at some point to kind of what you guys are doing now,
Sure.
uh, but I'm still just a little curious because it's rare that we have someone here that can offer this kind of perspective. And in the book, you talk about the trade association. I think is a fair way to say it. That you
Yeah.
that you started early. The Society of Software Authors, and so it occurs to me that even early on, like you were driven and felt it was important to create structures and provide access to other people that wanted to pursue this. And I think that's very cool. But I wonder, like, what kind of people, like, how would you characterize them at that point that were drawn to gaming and game development and game programming. What did you observe about those kinds of people? Who did it appeal to?
Again, a brilliant point. Thank you. Um, I guess I'm very lucky. I was surrounded by very good people, and I became very, very close friends. And I'm still very, very close friends with them. So I've made lifetime, friends with most of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I had a very lucky start with British Telecom, they gave me a brilliant agreement. At the time, I didn't know anything about IP, royalty, you know what I mean? But they gave me this amazing agreement which had royalties and everything. And then I met John Dean, a very good friend of mine, who was heading the internal development studio of Activision, who are the biggest publishers today. So
Mm-hmm.
I worked with them way back in 1986. It's amazing, nearly 37 years ago. Um, and then when we were dealing with like big companies, big publishers, I realized that the developers were so inexperienced, most of them very, very young.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually fascinating that the early years were filled with 16, 17-year-olds. So they didn't have a clue about anything. They
Mm-hmm.
were just fascinated by the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they were getting a couple of $1,000 or sterling, whatever. It was huge money for them. They didn't care about royalties. But like I said, because I was so lucky and I had also inclination about the whole business aspect, dealing with big publishers in a more interesting, more strategic way, uh, I realized that maybe we could do something to serve the industry, serve the developers and
Mm-hmm.
designers. And John Dean and I came up with this idea of setting up Society of Software Authors. And it was the first professional organization of the gaming industry. So, and then now, obviously, there are a lot of professional, very successful, very big organizations. Incidentally, when I was when after I kickstarted the Turkish gaming sector, I always uh, remained active in that area. I always tried to help the industry, help it become more professional. And I even founded the world's first digital games federation in Turkey about, well, 11 years ago now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I mean it just says a lot about who you are as a person, and how you relate to others in the industry. And I suspect it's why you probably had such a strong career, and are so well loved across Turkey and the industry. And looking at your career in the games, it's pretty clear that you're known for you know pushing the boundaries of available technology. And this brings us to Heroes Chained and the blockchain. And I wonder if that was a conscious effort at the time. Like, did you look at it throughout your career and now, like, it's so important to be pushing, 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 so we can be squeezing the most and driving it? Or was it just a kind of a more natural function of your creative work?
Um, I think I was inclined towards trying to better myself. That's
Hmm.
like my natural character, I think. Um, and then I realized that after my first couple of games, I was achieving things uh, technically and creatively that other people were not even thinking about. And then it became like a natural uh, uh, target for me. Like with every project I was involved in, I made sure uh, I had at least two or three unique features.
Uh-huh.
They could be a combination of technical, gameplay, or visual aspect, or a combination of thereof. And throughout my career, that was my driving force. So it doesn't matter what hardware I was developing my games on. Somehow I managed to, with my team, always achieve this. It's like with first Samurai game, it was Game of the Year in 1991, some 31 years ago. So we pushed the Amiga to the limit, as you say.
Hmm.
And then in 1994, Ubisoft's first game, by the way, as a publisher, I'm really proud to say this. Street Racer was world's first four-player racing game. Effectively, it's like the world's first multiplayer game.
Yeah.
Even though there were some brilliant racing games before, but no one had done four-player racing. So I was always trying something unique,
Yeah.
one or two things that was enough to make my games stand out of the crowd.
Right.
Because of that, I also had a brilliant relationship with the press, and that's very important for marketing and public awareness.
Hmm.
And even though I worked with heavyweight publishers like Activision, Ubisoft, I did most of marketing and PR work myself.
Wow.
And the press loved me for it. And I still have amazing relationship with all the journalists and the press people, because I would spend a lot of time accommodating them, telling them all about our game, giving them insights that they wouldn't have got from the publisher. And they
Yeah.
really appreciated that.
Hmm.
And I remember Rod Cousins, then the vice president, European vice president of Activision, telling me, are you giving these journalists, handouts? How come you're getting all these press and, front covers? You don't even advertise.
Yeah.
He couldn't believe it because Activision, Ubisoft, they would spend a lot of money, as you know, on advertising to get coverage. And I said, no, it's a special relationship. I don't even buy them lunch,
Hmm.
and they would buy me lunch because they enjoyed so much, conversing with me because I
Yeah.
was so transparent. I would tell them everything. I
Uh-huh.
remember uh, on Street Racer getting front covers on 4 or 5 magazines, which is unheard of. As you know, generally, to get front uh, page coverage, you need to give them exclusive.
Hmm.
And I had this special relationship with editors, and I would say, "Look, I'm giving you something very unique. No other magazine will have this, so you could say it's an exclusive." So that's how I managed to sort of get, 4 or 5 front covers for the same game.
Hmm.
Well, you
That's
would
awesome.
need 4 or 5 unique stuff in each new project then. Yeah,
That's
that's
true.
what it gets. That's how you get it. So
Yes,
at least 4 or 5 something unique and cover page unique stuff
yes,
for each
yeah,
game. And that's not an easy task.
yeah.
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 Yeah. And so, now I think it makes sense to, talk about the blockchain and Heroes Chain, and because with the gaming technology processing power over the last 30 years, 40 years, we've come a long way, and we're at an amazing place with this stuff, and obviously it's going to continue to go. But where graphics and processing power and speed, like, we're there. And so now with blockchain, it strikes me as this kind of this new frontier where the magic sort of starts to happen again a little bit. And I wanna go into heroes and what makes it special and the way you guys are thinking about this topic. And so, Erson, let's talk a little bit about you and your career. You mentioned 25 years in the software and IT industry.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping you can give us just a little more color on what
Yeah.
you've worked on, and what got you here today.
Okay. So I'm lucky to have my brother Erhan with me. He was my co-founder partner in our previous company, Koda, which is one of the top 10 software companies of Turkey. And it's a huge company, great success. So he's my brother, also a co-founder. We work together. but he's one of the best gamers I have ever seen in my life. And he's been blockchain since 2017 as well. And with after the 2018 bear season, he
Hmm.
starts thinking of, he's the CEO, I'm the CTO. He starts
Yeah.
thinking about use cases of blockchain, right? And
Hmm.
he always had this dream of founding a gaming company. And I've
Mm.
always been supportive as the elder brother. But he says in 2018, bro, you know what? Gaming is the best use case for blockchain. And very impressive. He convinces me very easily. But as a great CEO, he waits for the right time. Okay. So the beginning of 2021, he told me like last year, bro, now is the right time. After the DeFi boom, NFT coming and everything, Axie Infinite and everything. And
Hmm.
we're also lucky to have Mevdink as a close friend for 20 years, because when he comes to Turkey to kickstart the Turkish gaming industry, which was zero then, which is huge
Yeah.
today, thanks to him. He happens to be our neighbor in the Istanbul Technical University Technopark. So we
Oh,
watched him grow the gaming industry, how he fought, all these great games he developed also in Turkey as well. So anyway, I was convinced. Then he goes to my brother Erhan goes to Salih, a very close friend of ours. Also, Salih and two his friends are the co-founders of CBK Soft, another huge success in Turkey, and
hmm.
eventually acquired by Iron Mountain, the huge company. So they're great guys, highly reputable. Erhan goes to Salih and explains about blockchain and gaming and convinces them. So the core co-founders of the Heroes Change team are the co-founders of these two top software companies. But we really want to make something special and big. Erhan has ideas on against play to earn. So we decided that we need to find the best person to develop these games with. We're software developers. Erhan is a great gamer, but you need the best guy you can find. And
Yeah.
it's no contest in Turkey, as you can imagine. So Mevdink is a friend, no brainer. So we decide to go to him. Erhan goes to him, calls him, and goes to him and explains him how blockchain helps solve gamers problems. And Mev has a reputation not only as a developer, game producer and everything, but also a reputation to be on the gamers side. That's why
Yeah.
he's a cult. He's got millions of gamers. Still, his last MMORPG has been on since 15 years, and the players just worship him because
Yeah.
he has always been. And that gaming company was acquired by Turkish Telecom. History repeated. Anyway, but so even if he has to leave the company later, like Steve Jobs phenomenon may be, the gamers still were attached to him.
Yeah.
So he has this gamers, approach. So he can explain later. I'm going to give him, he loves the blockchain revolution from that perspective. So he gets
Hmm.
convinced. But of course, as a great game developer and also I would say, producer, uh, he realizes the problems of the play to earn model. Like, how do you find the money to pay the gamers when the hype is gone?
Hmm.
And so, what's the number of best games in the play to earn? And Arhan answers, and he checks that. He compares it with the real games he's been working on, with the companies he's been working, and he says, "Well, that's so little." So he has the first draft ideas there. Arhan and Mev can explain. And Mev can explain later. They have this vision, excitement, and everything. So, but we tell him. Arhan tells him, "We don't want your name, which is huge, but we want your talent, your experience, and your cult, your team gathering abilities, and everything." So, the moment we convinced Mev is one of the inflection points, I would
Yeah.
say, in our history, and the rest is easy. A great game has to be great on the visuals. Who do you go to? You have to find the best you can, and so we meet Onur Çaylı. Sari has a common friend. He's Turkish, but with an American career
Yeah.
mostly. The creator of White Walker's Race for a Game of Thrones. Oh my God. I would say I'm biased, but it's one of the best creations in the whole series.
Yeah.
He's done similar things for Terminator, Genesis, Spider-Man, Marvel versus Capcom, you name it, Sonic, HBO, and Netflix. He's
Mm.
huge. And
Yeah.
luckily he's back in Turkey. So when we tell him Mevdig is on board, we're going to create metaverses, such blockchain games, revolution, he gets excited. It's easier to onboard him because he was also planning to onboard this metaverse train and all. He's a great gamer too, and everybody knows Mev if you're a great gamer. So that's how we built this exceptional team with the exceptional goals we set. And I want to give the mic here to Mev, maybe to talk about the most important, points of our innovation on blockchain gaming, if you like.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ersin. That's a brilliant summary of how it all started, really. Our CEO, Erhan, as Ersin said, is a great gamer and great friend, as is Ersin. He excited me about the blockchain technology. I knew about it, but not enough. I still don't, but it's not a shortcoming, I can promise you. In fact, we have a brilliant mixture of talent. We have a brilliant blockchain team. Without it, I wouldn't have said yes to this. With my 38 years of knowledge and experience in gaming and all the benefits that blockchain technology offers, it's a brilliant combination. That's what excited me.
Yeah.
Like Ersin said, on the first day, we are actually writing a story. On the first day, whatever we discussed with Erhan, it's all happening. It's unbelievable. It's unreal.
Yeah.
Unlike the early 80s, where I didn't have a clue as to what I was getting myself into, but with blockchain gaming, I know exactly what I'm getting myself into with this brilliant team of people. And like Ersin said, when I asked him, so what sort of numbers of gamers were playing these blockchain games? It's very new,
Yeah.
And he said 100,000, 150,000. I couldn't believe it. I said, what? There are 3.2 billion gamers in the world. Obviously blockchain in terms of economics, it's already huge, even in its infancy. So there's a massive potential there, but there is an adoption problem. So maybe there's a problem with play to earn. So we addressed that on the first day, and we said our game should be play and earn. Instead of playing a game to make money, it should be naturally part of blockchain gaming because of the blockchain technology. We should actually bring in the traditional gamer. And the only way we can do that is to actually create a game that anyone can enjoy playing. And that's what I've been doing for 38 years. So that combination really excited me.
Yeah.
So play and earn was a driving concept to begin with. And then obviously when Erhan was telling me all about main nets, Solana, Avalanche and everything else, and then he mentioned the founder of Avalanche being Emin. When he said Emin, I thought, well, it's a Turkish name.
Yeah.
So that excited me again. I only need one or two things, to really excite me and then see the light, as it were. And I said, well, we must find a way to partner with Avalanche. Even though Avalanche, well, not even a couple of years old, it's absolutely amazing what you have achieved already. And I gave the example of Ubisoft. And I said Ubisoft had just started to become a publisher in 1994. And everybody was convinced that I was going to sign up with Virgin Interactive, the biggest publisher then, for my Street Racer. And I decided to choose Ubisoft because I thought Street Racer would be Ubisoft's first game. And I knew Ubisoft had a brilliant management team. I knew them. They were the biggest distributor in Europe. They knew the industry very well. And I knew that they would put everything behind my game because they had nothing else. And they did. And my game
That's
was a
history.
huge success.
We're talking about history of Ubisoft,
Absolutely.
the gaming giant.
So I have a special relationship with Ubisoft because of that. So and I thought, wow, there is a similar opportunity here. Let's try and find a way to engage with Avalanche. Let's make sure we get on board with them and we become their like the biggest team or game or whatever you want to call it. And obviously we were talking to other mainnets as well, as you can imagine, but I cannot tell you how pleased I was when we signed up with Avalanche. I honestly mean it. It's not a marketing speak.
Yeah,
It
but
was very important to me personally, and I'm absolutely proud to be part of the Avalanche family.
I need to tell you something here. Even though that was what he wanted personally, he also allowed us, or we're trying to make this professional decision, a technical decision.
Absolutely.
So uh, we chose Avalanche after a technical evaluation. So first, we wanted to go with L1 mainnets. We're believers in decentralization and too technical to level with L2. And we studied, and we had Solana, Avalanche, and Algorand as the top three. We didn't study the whole ecosystem. We might need to do more, but then we chose Solana and Avalanche for further detailed studies, and we were both believers in Solana and Avalanche. So yeah, after a technical, business, and everything evaluation, we made a decision. But that made Mev happy, I would say.
Very
Yeah.
happy.
And so, Mev, you are, your role is, executive producer essentially for Heroes Chain. Urson, you're a CTO, and Urson, as a CTO on a technology company, a gaming technology company, how is this different or the same from projects you've worked on in the past? What does your day to day as the CTO for a project like this look like?
Okay, well, we come from a conventional software business, as you know. Both CBK Soft and Coda are, top conventional software companies. So managing the software process is pretty similar. And in particular, in our case, we have four teams: the game developer, front end developers, back end developers, the 3D artists, and the blockchain team, I would say. And they all have to work in parallel because we have to be very efficient and fast. So coordination is important, but as the CTO, I have to appear in the AMAs because we're launching our project and tokens and everything. I'm so lucky to have Mev and Onur and Güven, the leaders of each team, and Tolga. The teams are coordinating themselves very well. They all know what to do. They have done that before, and so it's become easy to become a CTO. I hope after these IDOs and everything listing, I will focus more on the day-to-day technical stuff as well.
Okay.
Everything is happening in parallel now.
Yeah, yeah. And with Heroes Chained, it's a action fantasy RPG game built on the blockchain. There's lots of possibilities there. Um, but let's say it wasn't, right? Let's say it was a PC game or a console game, and we took out the power of decentralization and the ownership of the assets. How are you guys thinking about this game relative to games you've built in the past and other games in the market that are going to make it stand out, and make it special? What is unique about Heroes as a game?
Well, obviously, from day one, it was clear that we wanted to develop a great game, fun to play, regardless of what technology it used. Because of my background, obviously, I have seen all the dynamics of the changes, like from 8-bit to 16-bit to console, then the internet revolution, obviously massively multiplayer online games, which I have done a couple of very successful online games before. And obviously, especially on the massively multiplayer online games, we have everything. We have in-game money, we have characters, we have NFTs, we have items, everything that blockchain gaming offers. So it was so easy for us to, design a game that will stand out on its own without the blockchain technology. But the excitement for me was that there was this amazing technology offering tremendous benefits to the gaming community. So now we can use these benefits in favor of the gaming community, which means
Mhm.
that they own all the assets in the game, the NFTs, the characters, everything. Like that's why I think we have allocated 40% of our tokens to the gaming community, which is huge. And obviously, like Ersin said, I've always been on the side of the gamer. Even though I own the games, I always felt the games were gamers' content, but we own them obviously legally. But here it's completely different, and that's really, really important. And I think uh, we are doing our best to strike a perfect balance between a proper fun to play, free to play game and
Mhm.
blockchain game. So uh, I am hoping that we would be playing a leading role in this respect, especially with play and earn aspect. Obviously, that's also puts a big responsibility on our shoulders, but also gives us a massive challenge. And like we try to set up a dream team, uh, and I think we are capable of taking that challenge on.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah. And with the creative direction of the game, you earlier, Urson, you talked about the artists and the creatives and the storytellers, right, involved in this stuff. And something I've always just wondered about, especially with these games that have, tremendous lore and history, inside the game, is what does that creative process look like? I mean, it feels like it could just be someone writing a book or writing a movie, but to create this interesting and engaging universe. And so, how do you guys go about doing that? Is that something that's handled before or during? I mean, I'm sure it evolves, but how does this creative process inform the technology? How just give me some insight into how this all happens.
Yeah, before giving the mic, I should say we have quite a British influence on that part. Yeah, Nej, our game designer, over 20 years of experience, huge gamer, huge game designer, have designed globally award-winning game before, has put a lot of creativity there, and also Jamie, British, our story writer, dungeon master, gamer, writer, editor, and you name it, a lot of talent. So we have a lot of British influence on the story part and the game design. And, Brits, I would say, as a Turk, are the best when it comes to fantasy, Middle Earth, medieval steam creation. The Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Peter Pan, and all that. So we have a lot of influence there, and it's
Yeah.
Middle Earth mostly.
Hmm.
And yeah, Mav, you want to say anything about that?
yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, when you look back at all the games that I've been involved in, they're in many ways unique. Each one has something unique about it, and here we are doing something very similar. And Nej is, of course, my son, as you
Yeah.
may have read about him in the bookmark.
Hmm.
He grew up with games naturally,
Yeah.
but just like Erhan is an avid gamer, but also he's a brilliant games designer. So he came up with the main concept and the main design. He designed the entire game, and then we, brought on, like Ersin said, Jamie, our friend from the UK. He lives in Istanbul, lucky for us, and he's a brilliant story editor. He actually helped me with my book too.
Mm.
And so he has developed a story, which is very nice. I mean, stories are very important in games. Gamers love stories.
Yep.
And this is our first game. So we will do our best to uh, appeal to a wider audience. We want to attract as many gamers as possible and of all ages. And before I forget, I must say this again. On day one, I suggested to Aaron that our game should be on mobile as well as PC, because I noticed again that most blockchain games were on PC. And I said, no, we should be on mobile as well, because mobile at the moment commands 50% of the entire gaming sector, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So it's my personal ambition, and I'm sure the entire team has taken it on board as well. That we are trying to play a leading role in mass adoption to blockchain.
Yeah. And I'm just talking about the storytelling. This just occurred to me now. When did you see storytelling in gaming start to become such a focus? I think games have always had story, right? But as the technology has advanced, you're able to surface more and more of this and bring the gamer into it. And so, was it this thing? Was the creative process and the story of gaming something that was born from just a competitive thing, like let's make these bigger and badder, and more story, or when did you really start to see this be a part of the creative process in the way that it is today?
Again, that's a brilliant question. Thank you. Actually, when you look back at the entire history of gaming, you will see that in the early days we had text-based games. They were entirely story-driven,
Yeah,
like Lord of the Rings. You are actually playing that book in a gaming form with go
yeah,
north, go south, find the key, open the door. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it's absolutely fascinating that a few years ago, those text-based games found their ways into mobile gaming.
yeah,
There are some amazingly successful games. So it's just like the cinema, Mark. In our industry now, there are certain genres that will never uh, disappear.
yeah,
We will always have story-driven games. We will always have arcade games. We will always have hyper-casual games. I see a lot of people complain about the simplicity, but
yeah,
gaming is a simple thing when you think about it. Doesn't matter how complex the story is, how much technology or visual effort uh, behind it. At the end of the day, it has to be fun. It has to engage you, just like a movie. If the story isn't good enough, if the dialogue isn't good enough, if the acting isn't good enough, you know what I mean? It's not a successful movie. So they all have to be at certain levels. Same goes for games. So to me, game is a content, a product, just like anything else. So it has to be right in terms of user experience, user interface, everything. So it's creating that balance. And also the other important thing, a lot of people don't know about gaming, is that it's the most difficult thing to get right, with because of the interaction, you are presenting a game to a wide audience of different capabilities.
yeah,
Some people are better at playing than others, but the same game has to appeal and entertain at the same level. It's
yeah,
so difficult, but it's a brilliant challenge.
yeah, for sure. This is a question for both of you, really. What have your observations about blockchain gaming been so far? Like, what do you feel has worked well, and where do you feel the opportunities are to continue to push the industry, in a huge direction?
Mhm. Well, let me take some technical perspective on first, then I give you the mic, Mev. First, as I said, when we started this new project, we tried to find an answer to the question, where do you find the money to pay the gamers in play to earn when the hype is gone? When we do the macro economic math, we saw a problem there that it's not going to sustain.
Yeah.
So one answer was, of course, with MEV involvement. We have 3 billion gamers out there willing to pay over $160 billion last year, maybe $200 billion this 21, according to Accenture. That's a lot of money,
Yeah.
and it's every year. So that's something that can sustain an economy, of course. So with that in mind, we said, okay, if we can do the same thing, use the best practices of this hugely successful traditional gaming industry, we have an answer. So that's how we came up with this game first approach: play and earn as opposed to play to earn.
Mhm.
But secondly, the early play to earn or blockchain games used blockchain too much. Everything was, for some genres, the most of the data state was on blockchain. So we believe that if we want to make great games, uh, we need to use blockchain only where it is good at. So we have the game state, which manages the game mechanics, and we have the value state, like
Mhm.
what's the token, NFTs, everything valuable. So we'll limit blockchain usage only to the value state. Who owns what? You can trade, sell, buy, and nothing else. We don't touch the blockchain apart from that. So we have this separation of powers in place, which is very important. The blockchain revolution, if you ask me in a sentence, is okay, decentralization, but mostly separation of powers, which is decentralization on a meta system. What do I mean? So the game company has the power or is in charge of developing the game mechanics and running it and
Mhm.
publishing the smart contracts and nothing else. Once published, it can't change the smart contracts. So the main net, like Avalanche in this case, is in charge of running as a machine, universal machine, the smart contracts. It can't change the contracts. It can't change the game. And the gamers there, on the other hand, play the game, buy the tokens, trade the NFTs. They can't change the game. They can't change the machine Avalanche. But they are independent and free. But we have this beautiful balance where they also, provide feedback. They communicate. We listen to the gamers to make better games. The blockchain listens to us. We listen to the blockchain. So it's this. Everyone has its own domain of power, but they also communicate. And with this beautiful dance of separation of powers, emerges a beautiful economy. And with that thing in mind, as a CTO, when we design the architecture, we want to use each component where they are best at, not being impressed by hype. So don't use blockchain for everything, every transaction. No, use it only where it is good at. So we have
Mhm.
that in mind in the design phase. And lastly, this is something long term, but I suggest the listeners, the audience, to Google super rational attack to see my article post on the cryptography mail list. We also have another thing to bring the play and earn economy sustain, the transaction fees. So instead of as an alternative to proof of stake and proof of work, I'm working on proof of Turing consensus mechanism, where the gameplay fuels the anti-Sybil part of consensus rather than stake and hash power in proof of stake or proof of work, which is like proof of cash. But here it's
Uh-huh.
proof of human. So it's more secure. It's very efficient. Gamers are gaming anyway. It's where gamers are automatically randomly matched. One is a detector to detect if you're human gamer or AI. So if he detects that you're a human gamer, all this gameplay fuels consensus mechanism. No extra energy is required, and the transaction fees go to the gamer. So that's a vision also we have in the long run. Like, we are the people, we drive the metaverse economy, we secure it, and we get the transaction fees. And the transaction fees is $1 trillion business out there. And as Avalanche and other mainnets are trying to eat it, to disrupt it or onboard it, digitize it, it's a huge business we're talking about. And apart from miners and stakers, we believe there's a huge potential portion to be given to human gamers on gameplay and also socials. That's
Wow.
another vision we're trying to buy. That's a long-term vision we're working on in
Yeah.
parallel.
Well, the proof of Turing consensus is something we'll have to talk about at a later time.
Yeah,
We
it's a huge topic. It's L0. L1 is cool, but we're talking about L0, which is even more cool. It's deeper. It's Yeah, but we need to talk. It's more revolutionary
Mm-hmm.
than
Anyway,
L1s.
Yeah.
well, there you saw a glimpse into the
Of the TV. Yeah.
brain of Ersin. That's why
Oh,
he's our
thank you.
CTO.
Uh-huh.
And again, really, I'm sincere about it. It's very important to have him in our team with that
Thank you,
vision,
Mev.
and hopefully we can uh, uh, bring that vision into the gaming, because blockchain is still in early stages, obviously, but making a huge impact, creating huge excitement, just like any new thing in gaming.
Mm-hmm.
VR, as you know, it was a huge thing, and then now it's trying to find its way again. But blockchain is different because blockchain is now well established as a technology in finance, in many other things. Uh, so that's why gaming will be another, important aspect. And I can look at it from creative point of view, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that we will exploit every possible avenue to take advantage of the blockchain technology in the benefit of the gamer. Because at the end of the day, we are creating games for gamers to play. Without them, you know, the games mean nothing, really. We need the audience, we need uh, engagement and long term engagement. All this really excites me. And obviously, Heroes Chained is our first game. We will do our best to make it into a decent game, but we have a very, very long vision. Again,
Yeah.
on the first day with Erhan, when we talked about, he said, we should create games that we love, we enjoy. So that's our uh, first uh, goal, really, to make great games that people will enjoy playing. And we have very ambitious ideas for the future. And I can tell you that uh, uh, we will be creating an MMORPG, a really huge game that will benefit from the blockchain technology. I'm hoping it will be the first of its kind in that respect. But obviously, blockchain also offers cross gaming opportunities. I mean, if you design the games in such a way, you can take your NFTs characters into the next game, or another game. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
And when we struggled with cross-platform, now we are talking about cross-gaming. This is something completely new, and it's very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now, what about the kind of marketing of this game? Merv, you actually, I'm sorry, Mev, you covered this earlier. Your relationships and approach to marketing, how it's a little different. But the gaming, obviously, a tremendous industry with a tremendous amount of money flowing through it, and the marketing is huge, costly, an important part of it. And I'm wondering if you guys see any distinctions between marketing for, let's say, a AAA PC mobile blockchain based game and just a traditional, World of Warcraft type effort. How do you guys go about getting this out to the world?
Well, from my own experience, it's so different. I cannot even, tell you where I can begin to tell the
Yeah,
difference. It's really, I still cannot believe what we have achieved in the last few months, really. In fact, it's just the last couple of months. That's when we really kicked the whole thing off in terms of getting our website up, started talking to uh, partners, investors, and of course, mainnets. And we have a very good team of people who managing our social media. But in blockchain space, it's so different from the traditional uh, gaming market, because in mobile, about 3 years ago, it's unbelievable, Mark. 3 years ago, the content was probably 70, 80% important, and marketing 20, 30. Now it's the exact opposite. Doesn't matter how good your content is, you have to spend 70, 80% on marketing. It's just crazy. It's a
Yeah.
complete opposite. And so far, we have grown completely organically. It's unbelievable. We've
Yeah.
surpassed 50K Twitter followers, and I cannot believe it.
In about a little more than a month. Imagine in a little more than about a month, 50,000 followers on Twitter, and
Yeah.
it's skyrocketing.
And we
And it's
haven't
all
spent a
organic.
penny.
Not yeah. It's not spending a lot of money on marketing. It's much faster on the blockchain. By the way, blockchain is like kind of theory of relativity. Time flows at a different speed here. When I go to conventional space, it's so slow. So like 50,000 followers without doing a professional investment on marketing and uh,
Yeah, I
as an
think
initialization, it's amazing.
I think it's an important point that what fascinated me was that everything takes place on Twitter,
Yeah.
Telegram, mostly. I mean,
Yeah.
And
Discord a
Discord,
little
yeah.
bit, but it's more for the
Mm,
gamer, really.
mm.
So YouTube again with for AMAs and whatever, but most of the core activity uh, is happening on Telegram, which is
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. Until
Yeah.
blockchain, I didn't even know anything about Telegram. I just knew that it existed and people were switching from WhatsApp to Telegram for different reasons,
Yeah.
especially in Turkey. But
Uh-huh.
now I know that Telegram is the main platform for blockchain.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
It's
learning.
amazing.
Yeah,
you'll
we're learning.
probably grow to have a love-hate relationship with Telegram soon enough. But
Well, that's obviously, yeah.
it's an important tool for sure. And what about so let's talk just really quickly about the Heroes Chain token. This is what's available in the sale, and I want people to understand its place in the game and the economy, and why this is something they might be interested in.
Mhm. Okay, so first we have single token. So we don't
Mhm.
have double token, which one is deflationary, one is inflationary. We have
Right.
simple token, one token. We are believers in the Bitcoin revolution, which brings the deflationary currency model as opposed to the inflationary currency model of the fiat world. In the fiat world, one central authority has the monopoly to print money out of thin air, supposedly in parallel to economic growth. But when the central authority prints money, it steals value from the holders, of the people of that currency, from their savings and everything. So you have to rush and run to keep your money's value against inflation. On the deflationary model, on the other hand, there's no central authority with that privilege of minting money out of thin air. So as the economy grows, those who save hold the money, trade with the money, also has increase in their savings. So they're actually printing money without printing money. So it's a very simple model and very effective, and it's very decentralized. It gives the power to those who hold and save and trade the money, not to a central authority. So we wanted to stick to that, and we wanted to have this simple mechanism, easy to understand for also token investors and everything, rather than this complex double currency, one governance, one blah blah. So our token is both governance, in-game currency. You can trade NFT items. You can, anything valuable you can do with the token. You can buy. You have to use this token to buy anything and sell anything valuable in the game. And it's fixed cap, as I said, so it's
Mhm.
deflationary. So it has this organic, nature of increase in value or decrease in value in parallel to gaming economy mostly. But of course, every currency has sort of a trade aspect, also investment aspect, and also maybe hype aspect as well. But we wanted to make it as less volatile as possible. Yeah, that's simply, mostly about it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously, in terms of Heroes Chain, I can add that in blockchain gaming, the team behind the product is more important than the traditional gaming space. So I realized that very early on. So when we set out to set up a dream team, I could see the importance of it. People look at the white paper and then look at the team, even more. Obviously, that's why we said team first. Obviously, when you say team first, then product comes first, and gaming comes first, and we have tremendous knowledge and experience there.
Hmm.
And as and I'm sure viewers can tell from what little Ersin said, he has a tremendous knowledge about blockchain technology, and that's really comforting to me.
Hmm.
So, in that respect, we are very confident about what we are doing with Heroes Chain and what we will be doing in the future. So, again, it's a technical thing. I don't know, too much about blockchain, but I can say that the allocation to team, all the coins are locked and vested for a long time. Again,
Yeah.
to show confidence in what we are doing. We are not in it for money. We really set this company up to create brilliant games and hopefully become the Blizzard of blockchain gaming.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
what
not a
we've
small
been that's
feat.
what we've been telling internally, but now we also in the AMAs we say we always said let's be we saw that potential the vacuum there, to fill in. We wanted to fill in. We wanted to be. We say let's be the Blizzard of GameFi. That was
Hmm.
what was motivating us. We're all Blizzard fans, as gamers and game developers, maybe. But the thing is simple. Like all blockchain tokens, game tokens, you can use it as game currency. You can buy land, heroes, sell, craft gear, and sell your gear in the business plots in the city. You can stake them, you can DeFi them. We use the best practices, and we have a lot of alternatives and partners in the Avalanche ecosystem. Avalanche might not be strong on GameFi. It's going to get stronger, but it's strong enough in the DeFi. That's no doubt about it. We have so many options, and it's DeFi in incentives and APYs are really high. So Hack Token will utilize that as well. So you can stake and DeFi it as well.
Hmm.
Well, we'll do our best to help Avalanche, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As the winners of the first ever
Avalanche Hackathon. Yeah, I
Avalanche
forgot about
Hackathon,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was amazing. The hackathon in December. Yeah, that
Hmm.
was so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, obviously a very, very strong technical team, creative team, experienced. We're just so so grateful to be able to work with your team and teams like yours, that are really pushing this stuff and thinking about it in the right way, and really interested in doing good work, but also growing Avalanche and helping it actualize its potential, in a important and meaningful direction, that is concerned with people, and that's I think how this stuff is going to survive. So I want to be mindful of your guys' time, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. You guys have been very, very generous in answering my questions. It's been fascinating, Mev. Thank you for all of that background. Urson, thank you for your insight as well. And yeah, we're just really, really excited, and our community is very, very excited to start experiencing the elements of the game and just supporting you guys and watching the vision and roadmap unfold. So really, I want to thank you guys for your time and also your work, and allowing Avalaunch to support you through your launch. And it's really important to us and our community.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having us here. It's our pleasure. Hope to talk to you again. We're excited to be a part of this ecosystem.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to also thank you for having us. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. And again, I wouldn't mind repeating it. I'm very excited to be part of the Avalanche family, and I'd like to
Hmm.
think we will do our best to contribute to your efforts and future success.
Awesome. Well, we'll do it again soon, and we'll we'll kind of catch up and do a retrospective.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.